Alright, let me do it now. Hello, guys. Welcome to a new rant. Alright, so now is the one I really wanted to do for a while. History Legends, Willy. Two of the most baffling Ratnik supporters on YouTube. Honestly, at some point I really did not like them. Like, maybe even hate them. But now I'm just pity them. They're baffling to me. And this has been a long time coming. I've always mentioned them in some my Ukraine rants. Excuse me. And you know why. What History Legends is history supports Russia. Willy also supports Russia inadvertently. They both are Russian supporters. They both talk horrible of Ukraine. They speak half truths, basically lies about Ukraine and the war. That they overinflate any Russian success they have, and barely mention anything about Ukraine's successes. They try to act like Ukraine's surrender is a good thing, even though we've seen that it's the opposite of that since Russian war crimes. They ignore Russian war crimes and stuff. So it's a whole thing. So it baffles me to mind that they keep on lying, basically. That these three legends and William says, "Oh, I'm impartial. I'm on no one side." Yet, yet they take 99% of the information from Russian sources, from Russian maps, and we all know Russians love lying 24/7. But that's not here or there. What is really the issue right now is that this war, that 2025 destroyed their credibility. It destroyed their credibility. Completely destroyed it. 2025 was supposed to be the year that Russia should have won the war by now, or basically gotten most of the Donbass and taken over Novorossiya. But it didn't. They're basically nowhere near to any of Russia's goals than they were in 2022. And And it's very funny how History Legend's video, that he literally has to make a video trying to like, oh, I didn't really mean that Russia was gonna reach their objectives, even though he literally was saying that in the start of the year. So he tried to lie on mission, and now and it's even funnier now that he made a video that Russia's gonna reach Zaporizhia by the end of this year, and Ukraine basically destroyed that whole thing in the first 2 months of this year. So that's hilarious, hilarious. So it's so but you know what's very interesting now is that people are calling History Legends out in his videos. I think it started after either the Doppelpillar pocket or even during the failed attacks of Puff Cross. Because since last year, I've been seeing more and more people call out History Legends, saying like even some Russian bots are wondering if he's a Ukrainian shill in their eyes because the fact he keeps on saying things that they know is untrue about the Russian war effort, which is funny to me. Which is funny to me that even Russian bots wonder that. But even more people even call him out, saying I don't like Ukraine, but you're clearly wrong because why is the war still happening? Even though you keep saying that Ukraine collapsing in every video you make. And that is the biggest issue with those two. Though they always talk about, oh look, Ukraine took 1,000 casualties after 5 months, so that must mean their whole units have been destroyed. But when people mention how Russia takes tens of thousands of losses in a amount of time, they try to say that, oh not really, or do this or that, and act like Russia actually cares for its soldiers, even though they clearly don't. But the thing that always baffles me about history of really is their complete lack of understanding of what the Russian soldiers are dealing with. The fact that even Russian bloggers, military bloggers, are more honest about how badly they're doing in the war than those two is another funny thing. But there is one thing that always weirded me out, specifically of Willy. Willy keeps on saying in his videos that Russia's aim is not to take the land, it's apparently to destroy the Ukrainian military by attrition warfare. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't know you could destroy an army for more efficient means, right? Attrition warfare doesn't hurt just them, it hurts you too. There's a reason why World War One was seen as the worst type of war ever. And Russia's not even doing that part right. They're the ones attacking, not Ukraine most of the time. Heck, the reason why the Ukraine is having so much success in their counterattacks now in Zaporizhia is because they don't have to deal with 100 drones because of the fact that Russia lost their Starlink. But even before then, Russia took way more losses than Ukraine on average because they keep attacking in the open with the infantry that are barely trained. Trained even. It was so bad last year that even Russian polar bunkers would say they would never go there because they know that a new Russian soldier would usually die after 3 days there or less because of drones and artillery and being sent on dangerous meat wave assaults or being killed by their officers. But history legends and really old will never talk about that. They will try to vilify Ukraine for even defend itself and fight for every piece of ground because they hold it so. But hold it so. So it's and again, history legends is scum. He basically tried to act like, oh, why does Ukraine keep resisting? They don't want to. And it's like, did he even talk to one? Like, does he legit talk to one? I think he only ever talked to foreigners, but he never talked to an actual Ukrainian there. Because probably he knows that Ukraine will shut him down with the type of thing he says. But he was completely wrong, and now all his predictions are gonna be wrong. And Russia's nowhere close to win the war than they were in 2022. Again, that's going to be another video. But even that whole idea of the attrition thing, it just doesn't make any sense because if that is the case, why won't you let the Ukrainians attack in force all the time and not yourself? Even if you were like, oh, but Russia has a lot of manpower. Not really. They have manpower more in Ukraine, but the OAM manpower you would have seen in the Soviet Union during World War II, no, not even the Russian Empire in World War One. They're using volunteers, but now the problem is they're losing way more men now than they even are recruited, and they're recruited. The fact that it's literally been floated in the air that Putin may do another mobilization after he takes out Telegram is because of how bad things are on the front. They don't have enough men to fully do anything on the front even then, and less people are going there now because again, those who would have wanted to join out of patriotism for Russia or for the money, they already went. They on all that time in the world and they did went. So those who going to be drafted if they did now are going to be very very unwilling, and we're not sure how that's going to be for their for their war effort. Maybe it might be in 1917. Who knows? But again, Willy just feels backward in it. And he literally made a video like, oh, see, look, numbers, Ukraine loses more vehicles than Russia now. Well, that's because Russia barely uses vehicles anymore because they lost so many of them. Still lose a lot of logistic trucks and Scooby-Doo vans, but that doesn't mean they're better. It just means they have no stuff to be destroyed or little stuff, barely much stuff to be destroyed. And the thing with you missing those accounts is that in his video is how many of those in either Russia or Ukraine got repaired. Well, essentially the Ukrainian one got repaired, and Ukrainian uses MRAPs that's protect their troops because they actually care about the troops. Heck, Ukrainians are pointing out that even when the MRAPs is lost, their soldiers are protected, and now more so with the Starlink guard for Russia. So now they're basically having it harder to resist. That's why the Zaporizhzhia thing was working so well. Even though it's not a huge major counterattack by Ukraine, it basically developed into one because the Russians can't communicate themselves. And now, history legend. And so that's the thing about William. I'm sorry, history William. William just confuses me as a human being. And it's clear that he hates Ukraine for very petty reasons, because they wouldn't let him be a war tourist because he do whatever he wanted. Now he made this blood feud with Ukraine because they wouldn't let him do whatever he wanted, so he's gonna badmouth them whatever he gets and gonna call Ukraine stupid for not just become become slaves to Russia. It's disgusting. But History Legends does something similar, except and he also downplays how bad Russia has it. Never talks about all horrible things Russia do to all the troops. Never. Oh, he make a video about, oh look, Ukrainian desertion means that Ukraine is gonna lose the war, and he completely doesn't make no video about how Russia has even higher rates of desertions and higher rates of that. No, and yet he's gonna say that he's partial. No, no. That's not how it works. That's not how it should work. You can't say you're impartial, yet make videos trying to desecrate Ukraine, but nothing about Russia when Russia messes up all the time, and it's because of their bad performance why they unable to win the war. But oh, but but again, it's good that people are not calling him out on out on him because he is being stupid now. And again, if it, and again, and at least unlike really old, his research is the one of the ground thing. But even then, Russia is barely taking any ground, and the Ukrainians are making defenses faster than they could. And with the Zaporizhia thing, Zaporizhia city itself is basically safe for this year. It's relatively because of drones, but relatively safe from attack from Russian ground forces. The Russians just don't have it anymore. Again, that's why we wondering what Putin's going to do this year with how he wants to get rid of Telegram and such. Those two confuse me. They don't want to admit how bad things are with Russia, yet they keep on making videos celebrating every little gain ground. Every time Russia gains like 20 meters of ground, that's the greatest success Russia ever has. But when Ukraine does way better than them in every way, it takes them weeks to even respond to it or barely even mention it. It's like, and then people, and I get, and it's like, and then people, and even people in here showing the comments saying that what, we're gonna have another video on Kupias, you're gonna make another 50 videos on Kupias like you did with Bakhmut now. It's ridiculous. All of it is ridiculous. History lectures and Willy OAM are just jokes. They don't make content. They just make content for Russian sympathizers and Russian people who don't want to learn the truth. Because they're never gonna watch this. Because they don't want to watch the videos of Russia talk about how bad they have it. They don't want to see. They don't want to admit that the ground they gain is so inconsequential that additionally destroys the very idea of attrition warfare. They don't want to admit the Ukrainian army is still intact and still like the fact that the Ukrainian army has that air force still has an air force still has destroyed and defeated the Black Sea Fleet. How are you going to be any close to victory? At any rate, you don't even have an armored force no more, bro. It makes no sense. How I'm going to make a video about this, but Russia lost the war in 2022. They're unable to win it. That was when they had their best troops there, and they're all gone now. No. And history legends and really I'm not sure they're doing it because they're paid by Russia or they just really love being love spiting Ukraine. I don't know. But all I know is that they just make bad videos on it. And you know what's weird about history legends? History legends does make good content. At least when it comes to every other war except Ukraine and Russia. So that does tell me he is a shill in that sense. He doesn't make shill content for any other conflict in the world except Ukraine and Russia. That is a very weird thing to me. But yeah, that's my rant for it. Those two, they're not being on my spirit anymore, more because of just how they lost all influence and everything. They just don't have it. They just make like Douglas McGregor just talk Russian propaganda 24/7, even if the reality is the opposite. It's the opposite. I mean, Russia can't even protect Iran, so yeah. And I'm gonna make that video about the 2022 thing. So see you guys in the next one. See ya.